we started this with Aaron at the first town hall, and it was a great experience, as I said, for me as a person, more importantly, than a lawyer, because I really got to hear people pour in to her, tell their life stories, and really just tell us as outsiders what this community has been experiencing for a lifetime, while people have made a fortune off the backs of people like every single one of you, right? And I went to another town hall several months later, and I told one of our clients, her name's Martha Bradford. I don't know if she's here tonight, but she's a very good friend of mine. And we've become extremely close over the course of this case. And she held a town hall at her small little church in southern Whitfield County. And I told her at the end of it, I said, Ms. Bradford, we need to get you a meeting with Aaron Brockovich. And she said, no, baby, Aaron Brockovich needs to get a meeting with me. And I sat there and I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Miss Bradford's on to something. She's damn right. Because you all out here in this crowd have stories to tell just like Aaron Brockovich, right? Every single one of you have experienced something, and every single one of you have made a change in your lifestyle and your communities because of this chemical. You all are victims. No one in this room has done anything wrong unless your last name is Shaw and you dumped stuff into the Conasauga River and made a lot of money doing it. And that's the truth. And that's what Martha Bradford looked me in the eye and said, okay? And I took that with me, and 2 weeks later, a bill was introduced by the carpet manufacturers to permanently end this litigation. And Martha Bradford, on 24 hours' notice, went down to Atlanta, Georgia, and testified before the House Judiciary Committee against that bill, right? That's an Aaron Brockovich story. So Aaron Brockovich isn't here tonight, but the spirit of Aaron Brockovich is. It's in every single one of you. And that's what we're here about tonight, is to tell you some of the things that we've taken away from your stories over the course of the past 9 or 10 months. About to introduce someone by the name of Ben Finley. I'm very biased towards him. He's one of my best friends in the world. He's like a father figure to me, but he also signs my paycheck, so I've got to say nice things about him, right? But I've known the man my whole life, and he is truly one of the best litigators in the state of Georgia. We actively represent the state of Georgia defending wrongful death matters across the state. We actively prosecute cases of people who have been harmed. We're one of the few firms who does both in the state of Georgia. But Ben also is one of the best mediators in the state of Georgia. And I'm not just saying that. He really is. And he routinely settles cases for tens upon millions of dollars, where his job as a mediator is to bring two sides together, right? You have plaintiff and you have defendant. But a mediator sits in the middle, and it brings people together. And that's exactly what he has a gift at. About 20 years ago, my grandfather died at 57 years old of a massive heart attack after taking a painkiller called Vioxx. It was on the market at the time, caused heart attacks, and people started seeing TV ads run just like you do for PFAS and everything else. And Ben went around Georgia, just like he's doing now for PFAS, and he did town halls for Vioxx, right? My grandmother sat out in the seat just like y'all are tonight, and she listened to what Ben had to say, and she became his client. My grandfather was a former football player at the University of Alabama. He was a big man, but he was a high school football coach at a local private Catholic school and had no pension. My grandmother was a 57-year-old widow woman and didn't have anything left to pick up the pieces from what my grandfather left behind. But this man was able to fix part of the problem. And we're never able to fix the entire problem, right? But he was able to bring closure to one component of her life that ultimately helped her pay off her house. Over 20 years later, he's still there for our family. He's still there for me. He's still there for her. He's still there for every single person in my family. And that's who he is as a person. He's genuine. He cares. And when he's up here telling every one of you that he wants to hear what you have to say and we're going to do something about it, he means it. So it's my pleasure to introduce Ben Finley. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, we good. Did we get the thing? Okay. Let's take a look at this thing. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much for that kind introduction, and I really do appreciate everybody being here tonight on a Friday night. This is one of the most important things that we're going to do, I think, in our lifetime. All of us together, working together. There's nothing more important and nothing more sacred than what we inherited from our families and what we're going to pass on to our children and our grandchildren. I have a very strong faith, and I believe the Bible. I believe exactly what it says, and if you're a believer in any way or have any sort of Judeo-Christian or any kind of views of something bigger than ourselves, the Bible starts in the first sentence with, and God made the heavens and earth, right? God made the heavens and earth. And so outside of here, this beautiful land, when this country was founded and the 13 colonies were founded and there were Native American Indians living here, the water was pristine, the water was clear, the land wasn't contaminated. The water was crystal clear. Over time, though, companies like 3M and others out of Minnesota, through rail car, brought this PFAS chemical here. PFAS was designed around at the time of World War II during the Manhattan Project when they were coming up with the atomic bomb. And the idea, what they found was that it was stain resistant, water resistant, heat resistant. And industry discovered, well, we can use that. We can make stain master carpet with it. We can put it in frying pans, all right? So it'll be stain resistant. But the problem is it is a forever chemical. It is a carcinogen. It is toxic, and it is killing people. There are clear, as Nick said, evidence of no genetic markers with people, and we've been at town hall meetings now for about a year here in Chatsworth and Calhoun and Dalton and other parts of northwest Georgia. And I'm telling you, the stories that we hear are tragic. The evidence is devastating. And you need to know about this, okay? This is something that doesn't need to be covered up because it's a national problem. We and our experts, including Bob Bowcock, who's going to speak tonight, is the #1 water expert in America. He's testified before Congress. You're going to hear him speak. He's working with the Trump administration right now. He's working with Bobby Kennedy and others. He worked with the Biden administration. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is not a political issue. This is a human issue. It's not a political race. It is the human race. Okay, I'm a fourth-generation Georgian, and I want to pass on things to my children. What energized me about this in a large way and working with Aaron Brockovich and others is the fact that my daughter made me aware of a lot of these issues. She's in law school, wants to do environmental law. She said, Daddy, let me show you some of the things that are going on. When I looked at this, I made a commitment to her that for the rest of my career, as long as I can, I'm going to do everything I can to help her and the generations when I'm gone. I don't know how much runway I've got left. I'm 59 years old. I can't believe I'm that old, but I am. And those of you who are around my age or older, you don't know how much runway you got left. But whatever we do, we need to work together in a collaborative way to help change the things that are going to be inherited by our children. It's just wrong for this to have been done to this community and throughout our country. The Bible says, in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, all right? What that means to me, it's not necessarily financial. It's an inheritance to your children's children. Those are your grandchildren, right? Those are your grandchildren. Your grandparents gave you something, gave you a gift, gave you this land. This is something that's sacred. We're just all passing through, And so what we've got to do is do everything we can to correct the problems that are there. Now, the best example of anything I've ever seen is from Billy Graham. When Billy Graham simply said this, and this is before we got into PFAS. He said, listen, when we see the world as a gift from God, we will do our best to take care of it and use it wisely instead of poisoning it or destroying it. Now think about that. It's a gift. All of this is a gift, the fact that we have this life. No one's for dirty water and dirty land and all the things that come up with the toxins. But what happened years ago is that 3M brought this through rail car into this community, and because of the large industry in the carpet industry, making things like Stainmaster carpet and others. They would take the carpet, dunk it in this water, this PFAS. It would then go into, let's say, Dalton Utilities or other water systems. They would take that PFAS, and it would go into your house, and I'll show you, and others will later, about how it would go to your home. And you're bathing in it. Your spouse is making coffee in it. Your children are playing in it. And you were exposed to it day after day after day after day. Local industry and others knew about it, knew about the risk, knew about the dangers, and did things in an irresponsible way, like dumping it in the Conasauga River. All right? When Native Americans were here, and the names around here, Catoosa, Conasauga, all that's Indian-based, those weren't issues, but they're issues, and they're critical right now that we do everything we can to eradicate this. Now, here's what we're going to go over with you tonight. We're going to talk about our team, the crisis in Northwest Georgia, PFAS and its dangers, a legislative update, House Bill 211, which I think you'll find of interest in this sense, that some local politicians decided to see if they could get immunity and to create a situation where you could not bring a claim against local industry like Shaw and Mohawk, which is unbelievable, given the evidence of the carpet industry and others were well aware of the problems associated with it, and they knew the problems they were having in court. So they go down to the Georgia legislature and try to get the lawmakers down there to pass a bill that says folks cannot be in any way bring a claim against them in that way. Now look, 3M, Daikin, and DuPont made it, manufactured it, the creators of it. But that stuff hit the ground and hit the water when local industry decided not to capture and kill it on the warehouse floor like 3M told them they needed to do, but rather dump it in the river. All right? So there's shared responsibility there. We're going to talk about that, and I'll give you a little more color about that in a little bit. The litigation update and filing of cases, you're going to find out that the city of Dalton, through Dalton Utilities, has sued Shaw and Mohawk and 3M and Daikin and DuPont. You're going to see other issues with regard to Mohawk having brought a claim. When we started this about a year ago, none of this was part and parcel of this. Now, through Aaron Brockovich and because of the awareness that's brought to these issues, it's amazing when you take folks and educate them and you tell them what's going on, they make good decisions. I found in my law practice, and I've been doing this for 34 years, and as Nick said, the state of Georgia is a client of mine. I'm a special assistant attorney general. I was appointed by Mike Bowers in 1991 when I got out of the University of Georgia Law School, and I've represented the state. When you inform people, when you educate people, they make good decisions. When you keep them ignorant, you don't provide the information, you try to hide stuff, that's when it's a problem. So part of what we're doing, obviously, today is awareness, but these are things folks need to know. Now, our team consists of, it's Nick and me at our firm, Aaron Brockovich, Bob Bowcock. And let me tell you about Aaron, the reason she's not here. Her ear drums burst last night. She's going in for surgery in the morning, and her physician instructed her not to get on the airplane. And Aaron fought with him and said, no, I want to go. I've got to be there in Chatsworth. And the doctor wouldn't let her go. And I'm telling you, I have been to town hall meetings with her just like this, and she will stay till the last person leaves. I have watched her hold people's hands and cry. I have watched her with women who've had breast cancer, uterine cancer. A son and his dad both had testicular cancer. She is a true believer, and her heart is in this, and she'll be back. I promise you, she will be back, and we will have other town hall meetings where she is present. I want to encourage you, if you get a chance, to check out her book, which is called Superman's Not Coming, all right? It's a phenomenal book, and it talks about the water crisis in America. But Superman's not coming. I'll tell you who's coming are folks in this room, because if we all gather together and work together, that's when you find changes. That's when politicians, that's where business people, that's where folks will start doing right. And to their credit, some of the local industry no longer uses PFAS as a chemical because they don't have to have it, all right? But if we hadn't stepped forward, if you guys hadn't done the things that you're doing, it would continue on. That's the way life, business, money, and politics work, right? Because it puts corporate greed and profit always over human lives and safety. Always. It's what they do, right? Corporate greed and profit over human lives and safety. All right? They know better. They've got scientists. These are not folks that are uneducated in this space. They know exactly what they're doing. But they make a lot of money on it in Minnesota. They dump it on folks here, and we get damaged by it. So that's our team with Bob Bowcock, top water expert in America. Aaron will be back, I promise you. And here's what we've got. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly if I can. Hang on a second. I got to go backwards on this thing. All right, so what we've got is here's 3M. It's a $78 billion company based out of Pennsylvania. Based out of Minnesota. And they make this stuff. They're aware of it. I'll show you in a minute how a class action was filed in South Carolina in an MDL, we call it, by one of the water systems, and it was a class action that settled for $12 billion. I've been practicing law for 34 years, and I've never seen anybody pay $12 billion that wasn't at fault. Yeah, it didn't do something wrong, and that should be an indicator of kind of what we've got in the evidence against them. Articles, and this has been and y'all may have seen this with the media and the attention that's been drawn to this. Hang on. You can see articles associated with Fox 5 Atlanta, with the forever chemicals. And remember, it's a forever chemical, and Bob will tell you more about the science of it. But I'll tell you real quickly, just so as I can understand it, and I think it's easily understood how toxic this is. If you filled up your bathtub with sand to the top, and you extracted 4 tiny grains of sand, that would be toxic in the human body. All right, that shows you how tiny and how what a small amount is toxic in the human body. It's like that rice right there. If I took 4 little grains of rice, that would be toxic in the human body. It's the forever chemical. It resets the clock every day you're exposed to it. It stays in a male body for about 7 or 8 years, a female body about the same. It only leaves a female body through breastfeeding and breast milk, where sadly a mother's toxicity level goes right to the baby. As hers decreases, the baby's increases. It creates birth defects. It creates issues with children. And it's tragic, and we'll talk about that, and you'll see some of the issues related to that because of the toxicity. Other coverages, as you can see, this is Atlanta First, talking about the toxic levels of PFAS and the dangers associated with it. And look, it's not just a local issue. It's not in Northwest Georgia. It's everywhere in the country. It's all throughout Georgia. It's in other states. This article is from USA Today. It's a national issue. It talks about issues in Texas, California, Pensacola, Augusta, Georgia. This is everywhere. Now, the proof is in our results and kind of what we've seen. We have tested hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of folks' water around here. We have, for the last year, not charged anybody a dime. If you come to us and say, we'd like our water to be tested or we'd like our property to be tested, we have been doing that. And it's provided us a data bank of information, which is absolutely unbelievable, the results. And we promised folks that we would, once we had that together, we would reveal those findings. And I'm so glad you're here tonight, because we're going to reveal all of this in a public way to you all and folks in this community for the first time. You are going to be the first folks that are going to see what we're about to show here in just a second, all right? And Nick, if you want to come up with me as well, we're going to talk a little bit about this. We'll turn it over to Bob. But I want y'all to see kind of what we've got.
Actually, I think we're going to go ahead and turn over to Bob first.
You want to do it? Okay.
I want. This is the most important part of the entire presentation. I went to Alabama public schools. My educational ability ain't real high, okay? Like, you got to bring it down on about a kindergarten level for me to understand it. And that's what Bob has done every single step of the way for our entire team and for so many of you in Northwest Georgia. So this is going to be the most important part of this entire presentation tonight, because Bob's going to tell you exactly what we have found in your land, in your waterways, in your soil, in the air. He's going to tell you every single bit of that. And it is truly, truly, truly disturbing information. But I want you to take it all in. And then at the end, there are several people in this room that may be brave enough to tell you some of their stories and what their property levels are. And that's going to be so important, because I want every single one of you to see just how real this is, just as we all have seen over the course of almost the past year. So at this point, we're going to turn over to Bob.
Thank you. I'm not big on microphones, and most of the information's behind me here. But yeah, I kind of want to put this in context so you have an appreciation and an understanding of how we actually ended up here and what went on. Some of you might remember that the US EPA came out and said, we've got an issue with drinking water. That was about, believe it or not, about 18 years ago, okay? And that was the time when they called these chemicals C8. And the C stands for carbon, and the 8 means there were 8 in a chain or 8 in a ring with a fluorine molecule or a fluoride molecule on it, okay? And that's why they're called perfluorinated. And they were called C8 at that time. They were able to test down to about 400 nanograms per liter. Keep that in mind, almost 20 years ago, they were able to test down to 400 nanograms per liter. And that's important when you see the data we're going to show you. Then about 8 years ago, they changed it to PFCs, okay? And they dropped the testing level down to 70 nanograms per liter. And then it was about 4 years ago where they were able to go down below 1, and then they set the maximum contaminant level in drinking water for 6 of some 11,000 compounds, 6, to 2 of them, PFOA and PFOS, which are the most prevalent, at 4 each individually. It was any combination of 70 when they were able to test to 70, but they recently dropped it to 4. And you will hear people talk about the Trump administration rolled it back. That's just pay attention to the truth and not the news. The truth is that what they did was they kept the 4 for PFOA and PFOS, and then they took the other 4 of the 6 and sent them back for additional health review. They want to make sure that the science is right. And then they gave drinking water utilities an additional 2 years to comply. And that's okay, because a lot of drinking water utilities are going to need that time, because the treatment technologies that are available out there, everybody, imagine every drinking water utility in the country is running around scrambling to try to get those online. And so that extra time is actually pretty important. What happened was Rome, Georgia, said, hey, let's test. Let's find out where we're at. Back when it was at the 70, okay? And Rome was pretty upset that they found out that they had it at pretty substantial levels downriver. What did Rome do? Rome sued Dalton. Dalton wastewater treatment plant was putting in a significant quantity into the river. It was slowing down the river, and they were pulling it out, and that was Rome's drinking water. So Rome sued Dalton. Well, that was in the press, made some people pretty upset. There's a certain engineer from Rome who's not allowed in Dalton any longer. But that's what happened. And since then, you've seen and heard all these other things. The Southern Environmental Law Center, a good partner of ours, represented a major landowner who had basically, he ran a sod farm, and he was taking the biosolids from multiple wastewater treatment plants. Biosolids are what we end up with at the wastewater treatment plant, and they were spreading it on his land, hundreds of acres, thousands of acres, for farming sod. Many people in and around the 14 counties in northwest Georgia have accepted these biosolids on their land for years for running cattle. Some of them are running it on alfalfa and hay, and they're cutting that crop and selling it off the farm into other areas. It's just moving that PFAS all over the place. But it started with biosolids. And then when I became involved was kind of a simultaneous action. Many of the people in Rome, Calhoun citizens that were concerned, people started writing Aaron, help us, help us, help us. You can't believe what we're going through down here. So while Aaron was taking that approach, I had been invited by the Waterkeeper Alliance, who had done testing up and down the river, to peer review their study. So I had the Waterkeepers study, Aaron had the people calling her, and that's when we got involved in September 2024. So that's when we actually showed up, and it was in response to community people reaching out. We promised we'd go test. Okay, I've been doing this for contaminants before PFAS, TCE, PCE, benzene, I was the expert witness in the Flint, Michigan case. I traveled up to Maine. We've done PFAS in New York, North Carolina, kind of all over the place. And I will tell you tonight, it's pretty historic, and a lot of people around the country and probably the world will study the data set we've developed. It is the most comprehensive data set for PFAS investigation ever compiled. It is thousands of tests. And so we came through on that promise. We tested everywhere we could, and the results are pretty astounding. That promise has been kept. We need to act together to hold 3M accountable. I want to talk a little bit about this before I go on into the data. Something that breaks my heart every day I come and work in Dalton is I go to people's homes that have asked us to come in and test their drinking water well. okay? And I have a legal obligation to keep their information confidential. Not everybody wants their neighbors to know that they've got 850 parts in their drinking water well. And I'm not legally allowed in Georgia to go out and solicit people. Hey, come join my lawsuit, come join my lawsuit. You know, that's illegal. But I walk down that driveway away from that family's home, and I see 6 kids playing in the front yard around the well next door. And I can't go tell them. And that's a personal mental challenge I deal with every time I come to Dalton. I think we're at the point now where you got to tell your neighbors. You got to let them know. Whether they've been tested or not, this is real, and it's in Dalton. And if you're drinking 850 parts and you don't tell your neighbors, it's really eating at me. Okay, the US EPA limit for PFAS chemicals in drinking water is 4 parts per trillion. 56%, more than half of the samples we have tested, exceed that level in water. We have a spring within 5 miles of here that's at 186,310 parts per trillion. If you could see these 4 grains of rice in here, trust me, there's 4 grains of rice in here. That is the maximum legal amount allowed by the EPA. A maximum contaminant level is do not pass go, do not collect $200. You are cited, you are fined, you are shut down. That is the violation level. Most states require drinking water utilities to treat 80% of the MCL because they never want you to hit the ceiling. So 4 is that ceiling, okay? I'm not picking that up. That is 186,310 parts per trillion in a spring in this community. That's pretty scary, okay? 69%, almost two, it's not almost, it's over 2/3 of our soil samples exceed the US EPA reference level threshold, 19 for PFOA and 6,300 for PFOS. What that means is that PFOA is more toxic, okay? And when you study the health effects, you're concerned with a level that's lower. 19 for PFOA, 6,300 for PFOS. 69% exceed those thresholds in the dirt, okay? 2,154,500. That's one of the levels we found in this community. Many of our tests, the laboratory says, you broke our test equipment. It's greater than that. We just can't tell you because it is so much higher than our machine is calibrated to even report. Okay? That's just frightening. 97%, almost 100%. I'll tell you the 3%. 97% of the samples tested for dust were over the threshold in the homes. 879,500 parts per trillion. These are the dust levels we're finding in the homes on the properties we're doing the soils testing. If you were soils tested, we tested the dust, and I'll explain that as well. Let's put this in perspective. Is this where you wanted to come up and show the slide? I can do it? There we go. Let me get out of your way and explain this to you. This is a football field. There's the 4 people in the stands. And just like the rice, 10,747. The reason that that's important to understand is what that's telling you is that very, very small concentration, similar equivalent here, is, it keeps going. Okay, now I am perplexed. I can't get off the I can't get off the slide here. There we go. This is the Fletcher family place. Before I go on to that, I want to put things in perspective for you. When we first talked to you, we came out and we said, we're going to do water testing. And water testing kind of gives us, think of water as the way we move these contaminants around throughout the community. Okay, it's sort of the transport mechanism, much like the blood in your body. And I'm going to draw these two comparisons for you so that you can have an appreciation for the methodology we used and what its impact is on you. So the water is sort of like your blood. And imagine the 14 counties here in Northwest Georgia. Everybody's got a creek, a pond, a stream, a drain, an outfall. Everything goes to the river. You're sending pounds of PFAS into Alabama every day. Pounds is going in the rivers across. Okay? And what's happening is it collects in these streams and creeks, and that's your blood. Your land is like your thyroid or your kidneys or other endocrine systems, your reproductive organs, okay? Your liver. That's the land. And so let's say we've got 400 parts in the river, and that's modest. I got the river running at thousands, but let's just say 400 parts in the river. That river is used to irrigate your land. That river gets stopped up, the creek, your pond overflows, floods across your property, goes into the creek. The soil is like your liver. And so if it's only 400 pounds in the water or your blood, and it goes over the land, it accumulates in the land. So 400 this season, 400 next season, 400 the next season, which is why we're finding soil at 4,000 or 40,000, because it accumulates in the dirt and it stays there, just like your liver, okay? And then we wanted to demonstrate, well, how am I being exposed? Everybody has a lawnmower, you know, tractor runs across somebody's farm and you see the little dust cloud that comes across. Well, that goes into your home. It's called dust, okay? Everybody in here, whether you like it or not, we consume, by breathing or eating or just touching our hand to our face, about 100 milligrams of dirt every day, okay? It's about 6 pounds over your lifetime of just dirt that you're consuming, okay? So we were concerned about house dust, and since we're there testing the soil, why not test the house dust? So for those of you that have actually experienced the soils testing, you got house dust tested. The 3%, that was somebody who had just recently had their basement gutted and put in all that new plastic. That was probably why it didn't come back very hot, because it was a brand new construction. The others of you, if the river was running at 400, or the creek or the stream or your pond, and your land was running at 4,000, your dust was at 40,000 or 400,000. Why? Because it blows across, it goes into your vents in your basement or into the gable vents in your attic, and it stays there. So that's representative of what's happening to you over time. So once again, I'm drawing those two areas for you to understand collectively. River, creek, stream is your blood. Your dirt are your organs. And the way that you actually consume it or inhale it is in the dust. So the Fletcher family, is this something your slide? That's why I stopped there. And I'm going to come back and explain to you exactly how we did the testing after this.
I had to cut the guy off or he'd never stop, so sorry. Ben, you can come on up too. Everyone, this is you know, as you can tell, a dire issue in Northwest Georgia. Bob has conveyed to the Trump administration just how bad it is, and he's used the term catastrophic. And that's exactly what we're experiencing. And we wouldn't put that Billy Graham quote up earlier without some form of an altar call, right? And that's why Ben and I are here right now, because these two people, Amber and Leroy Fletcher, I don't know if they're here tonight. They come to almost every single one of our town halls. They've been incredible, incredible supporters of ours. I think they are here tonight. There they are, right there. They've been incredible supporters of ours literally since the day we stepped foot in Dalton. And they have 5 acres in Whitfield County, and they have a creek that runs behind their property that runs at almost 10,000 parts per trillion, okay? Miss Fletcher homeschools their children, does that to protect them from the dangers of the world, and little did they know, dangers were right there facing them at home. And I can tell you, just me as one man, I could not make the same level of impact that they have had on this community and on the entire state of Georgia. And what they've done is beyond admirable. Because when Ben and I, we can think we're big and bad and we'll put on our fancy suits and go to court, but 3M and the big companies in Minnesota and Ohio and everything else, they're going to send 1,000 New York lawyers down here that would squish us like a bug. But what they couldn't do is they couldn't silence Amber and Leroy Fletcher, okay? And in March, when Ben went down to the legislature, and you'll see some of that in just a minute, but in March, when they went down to the legislature and they talked to all of those elected officials who are supposed to protect people like you and said, no, this is real. There are real people suffering, and there are real victims here. They listened. And it is some of the most compelling testimony that I have ever seen in my life. And I've been doing this for over 10 years with this guy. And I'm telling you, it's beyond moving to me. But I say that because it's going to take Amber and Leroy Fletcher. It's going to take every single one of you in this room. It's going to take nearly every single person in Northwest Georgia to really make a change. And like Bob said, it's going to require people speaking up, not being afraid to tell their neighbors their results. And it's going to require each and every one of you to make the big carpet manufacturers and the chemical companies in Minnesota and their fancy New York lawyers listen. Because two country lawyers from Columbus, Georgia, we can't do it alone. We just can't. And at this time, I know there are several people in the crowd who share a story just like Amber and Leroy Fletcher. And if you feel compelled to lift up your test results so that your neighbors can see, please feel free to do so at this time. Thank you, sir.
So this is, if you could hold this up, you were 79.8 parts per trillion, 10 parts per trillion. Sir, in the back, is it 76,000 parts per trillion? I want everybody to see this. I want everybody to see this. I want everybody in this room to see. Neighbors, I can't see yours because I can't see very well. What does yours say, sir?
My lake was 8562.7.
Okay, 8562.47? 0.7.
Do you fish out of that lake?
I used to.
Yeah, so here's the deal. What about over here? What do you got, ma'am? What's yours? And remember, 4 parts per trillion is toxic. What about you, sir?
4378.2.
So 4,378?
2,000.
2,000.
378.2.
Right, right. And what about you, ma'am? Right.
Wow.
That's, yeah.
Free flowing body of water.
And so here's the deal with all this. This gets into what they call the ecosystem, the biota, right? We eat the fish.
Hey, Tyler.
All right? Those fish, you grab those fish out of that lake, you eat that fish. The deer meat, the cattle, the chickens, right? We eat the eggs, we eat the chickens. They're exposed to it. And what they found is testing with the animal, and Bob can speak this better than anybody, kind of how it migrates into us as human beings because we ingest that. That's largely where we get that. And they find this with the issues, the health issues, and as a result, obviously, we've got to clean the water because the fish and other things. In the state of Maine, and I don't know if we have that, but I'll just tell you real quickly, the state of Maine has outlawed folks eating deer meat and fishing and eating the fish out of certain bodies of water there. They passed a statute. Their legislature passed a statute that says you can't eat foods from that because you're killing people, you're creating toxicity, and we've got to stop it. It's got to stop with animals because that's what we humans, we eat and we ingest. So anyway, I just like Nick said, want to echo the courage that people have to be able, like the Fletchers did, and I I just admire the Fletchers so much as a family and have gotten to know them so well. But to go down to the Gold Dome, and it's very intimidating in Atlanta, if you've ever been to downtown Atlanta to the legislature, and to have the courage to get up there in front of a bunch of state senators and state reps, all that down there, the governor's down there, and you get there and you talk about these issues, okay? Let me tell you, there's 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. The judicial branch is the only branch of government that keeps us together as society. The right to vote and a trial by jury are the only 2 things that separate us from every other country in the world, okay? Where the Fletchers can be there toe-to-toe with 3M in a courtroom, all right? Level the playing field. No other place can you do that. Executive, legislative, they're all partisan, Republican, Democrat, whatever. The judicial branch is the, in my view, the branch that should be nonpartisan, should be honorable, and above all that stuff, right? With folks like in this room can come in and bring these folks to court, because I can tell you this, if we couldn't bring them to court or level it out in some way, God knows what they would do, you know? So, again, I thank y'all for sharing that, because you can tell folks in this room we've tested for it, and you can tell what the results are, which is consistent with what Bob disclosed.
And yeah, I just want to once again thank the Fletcher family so much for everything they've done for us and also for all of you. But their story's not unique. There's a lot of people out there who are true victims, who are hurting, and who really have a story to tell. And that's why we want to hear each and every one of you. And it takes time, guys. It takes time. We literally started this in September 2024. We have tested hundreds and hundreds of properties. We have done thousands upon thousands of soil and water tests across Northwest Georgia. And we are very thorough. But that takes time. It takes time to get you true and accurate results. And it takes time for us to be able to do it. So that's why it's so important for you to do it now, so that you can tell this story just like the Fletchers have and so many other families. Another family that couldn't be here tonight due to an unfortunate event in their family, but the Cordell family. And they said, we were blown away by our test results. The numbers are so high, it doesn't even seem real. We raised baby chicks, goats, cows. Now we're learning how expensive it is to fix this problem. It's terrifying. How did this happen without anyone warning us? That last part's the key. They knew. They knew. They just didn't tell all of you. These are some of our, Bob, did you already go over these? Yeah. You did? Okay. Maybe going backwards. Sorry, guys. Here, yeah. Talk about messed it up. There we go.
You can run the slides. Oh, there you go. Is this Ben? No. I love technology. You're going the wrong way.
I got to get help, guys. Sorry. This is Harold. He's our in-house geek squad member. I think we already did that.
There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay, this is where they wanted me to talk about the health effects. I've kind of already done that, but it's real important that I kind of go back over it for those of you that haven't heard it before. I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version. Chemicals cause cancer. Okay, not all chemicals, but I'm going to speak in general terms. You know, they say this chemical causes cancer, that chemical causes cancer. We've heard it so much in our lives that it's kind of lost its effect. Okay. Let me tell you about these perfluorinated compounds that have everyone rightfully concerned. We've talked about the fact that it bioaccumulates. If I took, a drop of gasoline, put it in my coffee, and I drank it, I know as a scientist, my body's going to get rid of it in about 72 hours. Now, it's not real smart to do. It's going to cause some toxicological effects. It's probably going to taste terrible. Could cause other things. Could cause a free radical, explosion in my body, and lead to a cancer. But, walking and talking causes cancer nowadays. They talk about your endocrine system, reproductive system, things like that. Most chemicals, have an effect on the reproductive system. We've become sort of like numb to the whole concept of all this because we're bombarded with it. What scared them more than anything was this bioaccumulation effect and the fact that it stays with you so long. The average person's going to have it for about 10 years. Last night on the news, for those of you that caught it, Emory University did blood testing. They did some in Dalton, Chatsworth, Calhoun. The scientists will tell you that the number 2 in blood, in the units that they measure in blood, is kind of the national average. You know, everybody's come in contact, I've come in contact with PFAS, everybody's come in contact with PFAS. And so they say 2 is something that is kind of ubiquitous in the environment. We've probably all got about 2 in our bloodstream, okay? Anything above 2, let's say you get to 4, they don't even mail you your results. You get a call from a doctor. We had results in the Emory study last night, 1,300 in people walking around, okay? The studies, let me tell you something about this chemical and the research that's going on. The studies that are coming out on health effects are coming out every day. And what they're finding, back to what I was telling you about your liver and your thyroid, most chemicals pass through. Your body was designed to get rid of things, okay? It's actually compounding in the liver and compounding in the thyroid like it does the earth, the soil that we talked about. And so what they're finding out, thyroid cancers are up dramatically in the last 25 years, dramatically. I mean, gross percentages of increase in thyroid cancer. And they think it's because it's literally impacting in there or growing in there. You know, quite frankly, I think we've scotch-guarded our livers. And what it's doing is it's causing the body to have an immune response retardation factor of as much as a third. So if you get the flu, your body's response is a third reduced. If you go get an immunization, third reduced. Let me tell you, that scares the medical industry more than anything. More than cancer, more than endocrine disruption. So here's what we did when we went out in the field. Some of you remember these guys that come out and they do the testing. This is a screening test kit, okay? There is a laboratory test kit that we use that's different. They're more expensive. This one runs about $70, and we can go out and we can screen it. I will tell you, we've done thousands side by side where we've actually sent in the screening test, and we've sent in the actual US EPA method test side by side. They are spot on. So we've got a lot of confidence in here. This is a heat map. So where you see these bright areas, everybody said that Bob used the word catastrophic. I'm a pretty conservative guy. That's not a word I use loosely. Out in my area in Southern California, we're somewhere around 15, okay? I call that concerning. So over the 4, which is the MCL, it's below 40, which is 10 times the MCL. That's concerning to me. I'm aware of it. I can take precautions. I can shield my family from it. I can reduce my exposure. If I'm greater than 10 times the MCL, let's say I'm at anything over 40, I think that becomes more than concerning. That's critical. That means we've really got to get our arms around that, find out where it's coming from, cut it off, do something, remediate, clean it up. That's critical. Northwest Georgia, you've gone beyond that. You're catastrophic. And the reason I say that is because you're 100 times the maximum contaminant level, okay? So we went out. This is how we do soils testing. We actually test the mud in the bottom of the ponds. It's collected in these jars, goes to the laboratory, and is analyzed. This is the dust I was talking about. Some of you, we went in the attics, took the dust off of some of the floorboards here, into the basements, and that's where you'll see that accumulation factor. And here are the top 5 water results. Pretty substantial. Top soils, over 5 million. 11 million in the house test. 11 million. Astronomical levels. These are the chemicals that are being tested for, and with that, we'll go with the legislative update.
Perfect. You keep that. Oh,
Sorry.
he's messing it up again. This is just a little bit of a short clip, guys, that I want to show about what we did at the legislature. Not all of our battles are at the courthouse, but we're out there advocating every single day for the rights of people in Northwest Georgia at the State House, right? Because it's just as important. So, spring of 2025, HB 211 was this bill that was introduced in the legislature by representatives that are local to this area, okay? it immunized completely the carpet industry from any form of liability for PFAS contamination in Northwest Georgia, completely. Completely. They've obviously played a key a key component of what has happened in this community, right? Not saying they did it all, but they were a big part of it. And you can't just leave your head buried in the sand for decades after decades while making billions of dollars off the backs of people like you, while also contaminating their soil, their land, their water. So on 24 hours notice, literally, we got word that this bill was going to be introduced. We called Amber and Leroy Fletcher. We called my good friend Martha Bradford. And we called Ronnie Anderson, who used to work at Shaw Industries. And he, together with Amber and Leroy Fletcher and Miss Bradford, all came together less than 24 hours notice to go down to the Gold Dome. And that is intimidating for the average person. But they weren't scared. They weren't deterred in the slightest bit. And they went down there and they poured their hearts out. That's exactly what they did. And they defeated this bill. Those 4 people stood up for every single one of you. And that's really admirable in my opinion. But the reason I'm talking about this part is because I didn't get a speaking slot in this, otherwise I would have stayed up there and talked all day. But this guy did, and he won't brag on himself, but I want to brag on him for just a minute and show exactly what he did. But here's some pictures of our clients. There's the Fletchers in the top left, Mr. Anderson, Miss Bradford. These are real people with real stories to tell. And here's Ben speaking on behalf of the hundreds of clients that we have in Northwest Georgia and advocating for their rights at the legislature.
Members of this committee, I'm Ben Finley. I'm going to speak very quickly because I've got 3 minutes, just very quickly. I am an attorney in Georgia. I've been practicing law for 33 years. I'm a special assistant attorney general for the state of Georgia. I represent the state of Georgia, and I represent a lot of folks in Northwest Georgia. House Bill 211 is a terrible bill. It is to protect wrongdoers. The bill seeks to immunize carpet manufacturers for negligence, gross negligence, and wanton carelessness. Shaw and Mohawk, among others, have put corporate greed and profit over human lives and safety, and I can prove it today. I've heard, among others, the sponsor of the bill say, and I quote, "Sue them all if there is knowledge." Excellent questions were raised about whether or not Shaw and Mohawk had knowledge about these issues. Shaw and Mohawk's corporate representatives have testified under oath that they had knowledge of PFAS contamination for the past couple of decades, and both companies were instructed by 3M to incinerate PFAS, but chose not to do so. They could have captured and killed PFAS on the factory floor, but they did not. They chose to discharge it, and it is because of Shaw and Mohawk that it hit the ground in Georgia. 3M made it. They gave it to Shaw and Mohawk, and the monies that Mohawk has made with a $7.6 billion market cap came from PFAS and stepping on the necks and the backs of people in Northwest Georgia that they made a profit off of and contaminated our environment. It's called a predominance of cancers in people. It's resulted in properties being devalued, and it is absolutely tragic what has happened. Shaw and Mohawk and 3M representatives have testified under oath, including Jim Williams at Mohawk, Rick Ressler, Robert Chadd at 3M, Kelly Ballou at Shaw, Donald Davis, Jeffrey Loverbaum, Mohawk, and Cynthia Williams at Shaw, that they knew about it, had knowledge of it, and were aware of the problems with PFAS. It is absolutely tragic that this claim is going on. Let me tell you what this is about. This is about the fact that Troutman Pepper filed a lawsuit on behalf of Dalton Utilities and the taxpayers in Dalton to get remediation from Shaw and Mohawk, who have been corrupting and contaminating Dalton, Georgia, and they know they got to clean it up. It's analogous to if I came to somebody's yard and I dumped a bunch of trash in your yard, I can't say, hey, man, it's your problem. You got to clean it up. And here's the bottom line. If 3M and Daikin and DuPont don't clean it up with Shaw and Mohawk, it falls on the taxpayers of Georgia. I've been coming up here since I was 18 years old with Pete Robinson from Columbus, Georgia in 1984. I'm 58 years old. I've never seen anything like this where any corporate defendant, and I was taught better, tries to seek immunity and a walk-off home run when they are culpable, have knowledge, and are liable for these claims. It is absolutely tragic. And I would suggest that a law firm like Troutman Pepper with Chief Justice Harold Melton as one of the partners in that firm would never file a lawsuit against Shaw and Mohawk unless they do dadgum well on behalf of the city of Dalton that they had the goods on them. I'm from Columbus, Georgia. It'd be like the dang city of Columbus suing Aflac. And I can assure you the city of Columbus would never sue Aflac unless they had the information, the knowledge, and all the evidence to back up their case. So to quote the sponsor of the bill, sue them all. And that's what we're doing. We sued them all in Gwinnett County State Court. We brought a case with Gerald Davidson in Gwinnett County, a great lawyer in Gwinnett. We've got Georgia plaintiffs against Georgia resident defendants, including Murray County's landfill, Catoosa's landfill, and Gordon County's landfill, because it's going to fall on the taxpayers. And here's the tragedy. The double tragedy is that the victims are going to have to clean it up. Get a load of that. They dump the stuff on your property, and then you get to clean it up. All right, so we brought against Georgia resident defendants in Georgia State Court on behalf of Georgians, because here we are here truly to protect Georgia citizens, which everybody in this body was elected to do. We stand in unison and harmony, and I appreciate the questions before related to that. I could talk all day about this. I'm happy to field any questions that anybody may have. And I'm sorry if I went over my time.
All right. Any questions? Chairman, Vice.
Members of this committee, I'm Ben Finley. I'm going to speak very quickly because I've got 3 minutes, just very quickly.
Thank you. I appreciate the applause but I tell you, look, I'm just one guy. You know, I mean, I am one person, but the power of this is like Nick said. It's the Fletchers, it's the families. I'm an advocate, but I can tell you this: I'm not scared of them. You know, and nobody here needs to be scared of them. I mean, it's 1 Samuel, you know, it's David and Goliath, and I can assure you we're David. And we've had to put together quite a team of lawyers and quite a team of experts to take these people on. But I want you guys to know we are out fighting for you every day with things like that, which you do not see on the news necessarily. You don't read in the paper. You don't know that local legislators are the ones that you voted for who are trying to get immunity for local industry when local industry is culpable. But here's the deal. Counties, governmental entities, Dalton Utilities had to bring the claim that they brought because of the fact they have a claim at Dalton Utilities which is over $900 million to remediate, and unless 3M or Shaw or Mohawk or somebody pays it, the residents of Dalton and the Whitfield County area are going to have to pay it. I mean, that is the absolute worst. So they cause cancer, they devalued your property, your business has been reduced in value, and get a load of this. You get to pay for it. Okay, that's insane. People have made multiples of billions of dollars off this product, and the folks in this room are going to have to fit the bill. I mean, that's just nuts, right? So it gets me wound up. I could talk about it all day and all night, but I won't keep you here all night. Let me run through real quickly a little bit more of information on the litigation update. Okay, so as of today, we represent county and entities with Catoosa, Gordon, and Murray County on behalf of the taxpayers and the folks that we're trying to help. We've helped individual landowners. We brought claims for landowners who have properties that with these toxic levels that we've disclosed to everybody. You can tell, you know, from our courtroom fight, it's not just in the courtroom, but it's also in the legislature. We're fighting on a lot of different fronts. Who has a claim? Before we get into that, though, and I'm not sure if we have a particular slide, but I want to disclose this to you. When this thing happened, the Mohawks and the Shaws of the world were of an opinion that, you know, we didn't do anything wrong. Well, then a watershed moment that happened in this whole project was Mohawk filed a lawsuit against 3M and said, and among other claims, pled fraud and all these other things. They were misled and deception and punitive damages. This is Mohawk taking the position, we didn't know. It's all you, 3M. All right? They also brought a claim for reimbursement, we'll call it, where if we've got to pay somebody with what we've done wrong, 3M, you got to reimburse us, okay? Now, the big seminal moment, though, and this was in December, when the city of Dalton, and I said that in that video y'all watched, the city of Dalton, on behalf of Dalton Utilities and this big law firm, Troutman Pepper in Atlanta, check this out. City of Dalton sues Shaw, Mohawk, 3M, and all those. Think about this. How many times did you see a city take on its largest corporate citizen? That'd be like almost never. I'm telling you, I'm from Columbus, Georgia. Aflac, would not be sued by the city of Columbus. City of Columbus is like, in the Emerald City, I mean, they're it. The Affleck's everything. Why would they do this and bring a claim against Shaw and Mohawk? I'll tell you why, as I said up there. Because they know that they're culpable. Their executives have testified under oath. The city of Rome has gotten compensation in their other cases where all that is evidence in the record which proves that they knew about it years ago, right? And so they had no choice. They had to bring the claim because if they didn't, what's going to happen is potentially the government's going to cause this they call a super fund, and they're going to require the cleanup. And if they require the cleanup, the municipalities are going to turn over and they're going to go to the taxpayers and everybody's going to have to pay for it. So who has a claim? Landowners, business owners, farmers, recreational land users, individuals, governmental entities, water. We've had a class action, and we could talk about that all night with regard to the class action that was settled in the MDL in South Carolina. Let's say you're an organic farmer, and I'll try to go this pretty quickly. Let's say your crops have been contaminated because of PFAS, and you lose your organic farmer designation. You've got damages from that. All of these individuals, all these corporate entities and governmental entities would have claims. So in Georgia, the claims are pretty much grounded in negligence and failure to warn, trespass, nuisance, and the damages of property values and remediation. And the remediation costs are absolutely staggering, how much it costs to incinerate this stuff. And Bob can talk about that more. I'm covering as much as I can, as quickly as I can, because I don't want y'all to be here all night. But I will tell you, we don't go anywhere. Anybody that has a question, they want to come up and meet with us and talk about anything you got, we'll stay till the last person leaves, Bob, Nick, and me. And we've got an office in Dalton, Georgia. We've had for about a year now. Y'all come see us at 517 Benjamin Way. Check out our website. We'll set up a meeting. Some people want to talk about things, obviously, that are private and want to meet with us privately. You see in your packet of information all of our contact information, and we're still testing for people. So personal injury claims include birth defects. We've seen a tremendous number of issues with health issues with regard to uterine cancer, breast cancer, testicular cancer. We are told that 1 in 100,000 people get Lou Gehrig's disease. 1 in 100,000 people suffer from Lou Gehrig's disease. Let's say Dalton has about 34,000 people roughly. That means statistically no one in Dalton, Georgia should have, Lou Gehrig's disease if you accept those numbers because they don't even have 100,000 people, right? So we have had at least 8 people in this area and kind of in the Dalton area that have disclosed Lou Gehrig's disease. We have seen no genetic markers with regard to some cancers within family dynamics where it doesn't look like it's an inherited genetic trait, but rather something from the environment is the cause of it. So those are the claims. In terms of joining the fight, look, the strength of this is in the people. This is a government for the people, and if people just sit around and don't do anything about it, I can just tell you it's going to be more of the same. But if you've got the courage to step forward and you want to do something, anybody can do anything they want. I mean, folks want to sit on the sidelines, that's your prerogative. But if you want change and you can see what's happening here, we all need to do everything we can to eradicate this and work together. And I say that because, again, I don't, my daughter's sick and she can't be here tonight. But I'm doing this for my daughter and my grandchildren that I don't have yet. Because, again, my runway's not that long. I don't know. None of us know for sure. But I don't want to. I want to look back on my life, and I want to look back on it in terms of making a difference. Okay? This is a calling. This is a noble cause in my view. Because if we don't do this, this is an issue that our children and their children will inherit, and it'll just get worse. Okay? So everybody, if you've got this and want us to help, we're here to help. And I'm a guy, and I can talk, and I'm a lawyer, and I can go to the legislature and do all that stuff. But I get strength from a client. I get strength from the Fletchers, all right? That's what we do. We know how to do it, but the heart of this, and it's all about heart. It's all about heart and courage. And one person can change the world. Happened years ago, happened today. And in this context, an Aaron Brockovich, one person. The Fletchers have done this. Each of us can do this, okay? But there's strength in numbers. The fight includes this. If you want us to do this, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. You sign up. We test your water. We give you the results. We don't charge you for anything. We didn't want to do this where people have been damaged or have issues where it's going to be an expense. But I can tell you it's very expensive for us in terms of doing this, to fund all this, to do all this work. And we match up against lawyers, as Nick said, that paid, tremendous amounts of money by the hour, these big, firms in Atlanta and New York that we fight against every day with regard to this. But at the end of the day, we're on the side of the angels. We're on the right side of this, all right? There's no doubt about it. Nobody could be for dirty air and dirty water. I mean, I haven't met anybody that is for that cause, and when they see the evidence, it is crystal clear who's on the right side, and that would be us. So if you've got questions and answers, what we'll do is we'll stick around here to field questions. We've done this in various formats, but we found that that's the highest and best use of everybody's time. It's a Friday night. I'm always amazed at the turnout in Chatsworth that we've got with this. We may have, Nick, have you got any questions that people have asked, or we got a... Yeah, I think that makes sense, because some folks, want to go home and need to go. Some folks need to stay. But again, we won't leave until the last person's here. So grab some food, hang out with us, come ask us questions, whatever we can do to help. But again, I can't thank you all enough for being here tonight. This is extraordinarily important to all of us. God bless all of you, and I hope we'll come up and ask us anything you need. And if you got to go, I hope you all have a great weekend. Or if you come tomorrow night, we'll be in Calhoun doing the same thing. But thank you all.